The alien princess laughed at Love, but his proposal left her speechless. The crimson sky of Neceres blazed with twin suns as Princess Zara stood on her crystalline balcony, watching the daily patrol ships return to the capital. Her emerald skin shimmered in the dying light, and her violet eyes remained as cold as the ice mountains beyond the city. At 25 cycles old, she had never known love, never wanted it, certainly never believed in it. The people of Neceres whispered about their princess. Beautiful beyond measure, intelligent beyond compare, yet untouchable as the frozen peaks that surrounded their world. Zara preferred it that way. Love was weakness. Love was pain. Love was what killed her parents during the Great War when she was barely 10 cycles old. A brilliant flash across the sky caught her attention. Something was falling, burning through the atmosphere like a dying star. Zara's enhanced vision focused on the object, a ship, definitely not Nexarian design. As it crashed into the forbidden forest beyond the palace walls, she felt an estranged stirring in her chest. Curiosity, perhaps, nothing more. Within moments, her royal guards had located the crash site. The ship was small, definitely built for long-distance travel, and somehow the pilot had survived. Captain Jake Morrison of Earth's diplomatic corps lay unconscious among the twisted metal, his brown hair matted with blood, his breathing shallow but steady. When Jake finally awakened 3 days later, he found himself in what could only be described as the most beautiful prison he'd ever seen. Crystal walls surrounded him, pulsing with soft blue light, and the air itself seemed to sparkle with energy. But it was the woman standing before him that truly took his breath away. Princess Zara entered the chamber like winter itself had taken form. Her long silver hair flowed like liquid mercury, and her violet eyes studied him with the intensity of a predator examining prey. She wore robes of deep purple that seemed to move with their own inner light, and every step she took was precise, calculated, regal. "You are awake," she said, her voice carrying the musical quality of her people, but with an edge of ice that could cut through steel. Jake tried to sit up, wincing at the pain in his ribs. "Well, that's better than the alternative. I'm Jake Morrison, Earth's diplomatic corps, and you must be the welcoming committee." Zara's expression didn't change. "I am Princess Zara of House Vextar, ruler of the northern territories of Nexarus. You have violated our airspace during a period of isolation. Explain yourself." Despite his injuries, Jake managed a crooked smirk. "Your Highness, I came bearing gifts of peace and possibly terrible Earth coffee. Though I'm guessing the crash landing wasn't part of the traditional diplomatic protocol." For the briefest moment, something flickered across Zara's face. Amusement? Annoyance? Jake couldn't tell, but it was the first crack he'd seen in her perfect composure. "You risk death by coming here uninvited," Zara continued, her tone as flat as before. "My council demands your immediate execution." "That seems a bit extreme for a parking violation," Jake replied, trying to gauge her reaction. "Look, I know this is unprecedented, but Earth needs your help. We've been monitoring signals from this sector, and we know Neceres has the most advanced energy technology in the galaxy." Zara stepped closer, and Jake caught a scent like winter rain and starlight. "What makes you think we would help a species we've never encountered?" "Because," Jake said, his voice growing serious, "sometimes strangers make the best allies. No history of betrayal, no old grudges. It's just a peoples who might benefit from knowing each other." Zara studied him for a long moment, her violet eyes searching his face for deception. She found only sincerity, determination, and something else she couldn't quite identify, something that made her chest tighten unexpectedly. "You will remain under guard while the council decides your fate," she announced, turning toward the door. "Do not attempt to escape." "Wait," Jay called after her. "What should I call you? Besides your Highness, I mean." Zara paused at the threshold, her hand resting on the crystal doorframe. Without turning around, she said softly, "Zara, my name is Zara." As the door sealed behind her, Jake leaned back against the soft walls of his cell, a smile playing at his lips. For a species that claimed to have no contact with humans, their princess certainly seemed curious about him. And despite her icy exterior, he'd caught glimpses of something else beneath the surface. something warm and vulnerable that she was, desperately trying to hide. In her private chambers high above the city, Zara stood before her reflection in a mirror made of polished starstone. The human's words echoed in her mind, and his easy smile haunted her thoughts. She had expected fear, groveling, perhaps anger. Instead, she'd found humor, courage, and an unsettling warmth that seemed to radiate from him like heat from a hearth fire. Impossible, she whispered to her reflection. Love is weakness, love is pain. But as she prepared for sleep, Zara found herself wondering what Jake Morrison's story was, and why his eyes held such genuine kindness despite his dire circumstances. The next morning brought rain to Nicaris, something that happened rarely in the arid climate. Zara took it as an omen, though whether good or ill remained to be seen. She had spent the night in restless dreams filled with brown eyes and crooked smiles. Waking more unsettled than she cared to admit, her advisors had gathered early, their voices carrying through the crystal corridors like whispers of doom. They wanted the human executed immediately, claiming his presence threatened their carefully maintained isolation. But something in Zara rebelled against the idea. Perhaps it was curiosity. Perhaps it was the lingering memory of his fearless humor in the face of death. I will interrogate the prisoner myself, she announced to the council, ignoring their protests. If he truly poses a threat, I will discover it. Jake had been moved to a more comfortable chamber, one with actual furniture and a window overlooking the palace gardens. When Zara entered, she found him standing at the window, apparently fascinated by the bioluminescent flowers that glowed softly in the rain. They're beautiful, he said without turning around. On Earth, we have nothing quite like them. Our flowers need sunlight to bloom, but these seem to thrive in darkness. They are called star blooms, Zara replied, surprised that she'd answered. They store energy during the day and release it as light when darkness falls. Jake turned to face her, and Zara was struck again by the warmth in his eyes. Kind of like hope then, saving up strength for when you need it most. The observation was so unexpectedly poetic that Zara found herself momentarily speechless. She recovered quickly, settling into the chair across from where he stood. Tell me about Earth, she commanded, though her tone lacked its usual imperial edge. For the next several hours, Jake painted pictures with his words. He told her about vast oceans that stretched beyond the horizon, about forests where sunlight filtered through leaves in golden streams, about cities that never slept and quiet farms where time seemed to stand still. He spoke of music and art, of literature and dreams, of a species that created beauty even in the midst of struggle. It sounds chaotic, Zara observed, though there was something wistful in her voice. It is, Jake agreed, but chaos can be beautiful too. Like a storm, dangerous, yes, but also full of energy and possibility. We value order on Nicaris, Zara said stiffly. Structure, predictability. And yet you're here, talking to a complete stranger, instead of having me executed, Jake pointed out gently. That doesn't seem very predictable. Zara stiffened, realizing he was right. This wasn't like her at all. She was known for her decisive nature, her unwavering adherence to protocol. Yet here she sat, drawn into conversation with this human as if he were an old friend rather than a potential enemy. You're trying to manipulate me, she accused, though without real conviction. Jake's expression grew serious. No, Your Highness. I'm trying to understand you. There's a difference. Something in his tone made Zara's breath catch. When was the last time someone had wanted to understand her rather than simply obey or fear her? She couldn't remember. My counsel grows impatient, she said finally, standing to leave. Then maybe you should stop listening to your counsel and start listening to yourself, Jake suggested. Zara froze at the door. What did you say? I said maybe you should trust your own judgment for once. You're clearly intelligent, compassionate, and strong. Why do you need a room full of advisors? To tell you what to think? You know nothing about me, Zara snapped, but her voice lacked fire. I know you're lonely, Jake said quietly. Yeah? I know you're afraid of something maybe getting hurt, maybe making the wrong choice. I know that underneath all that ice, there's someone who wants to connect with another living being. The words hit Zara like a physical blow. She turned to face him, her violet eyes blazing with something between anger and pain. "You presume too much, human." "My name is Jake," he said gently. "And maybe I do presume too much. But I also know what it's like to be alone, to have the weight of other people's expectations on your shoulders. The difference is I learned that isolation isn't strength, it's just another kind of prison." Zara stared at him for a long moment, feeling something crack inside her chest. Then, without another word, she fled from the room, leaving Jake standing alone among the star bloom's gentle glow. That evening, as the twin suns set over Nakaris, Zara found herself back on her balcony, staring out at the city she ruled, but never truly felt part of. Jake's words echoed in her mind, striking at truths she'd spent years trying to bury. She was lonely. She was afraid. And despite every instinct screaming at her to maintain her distance, she found herself wanting to return to that chamber, to lose herself in stories of chaos and beauty, storms and possibility. For the first time in 15 years, Princess Zara of Nixaris began to wonder if perhaps, just perhaps, her walls were built not to keep danger out, but to keep herself trapped within. 3 days passed before Zara allowed herself to visit Jake again. She told herself it was duty. She needed more information about Earth's intentions, about their technology, about potential threats. But as she walked through the crystal corridors toward his chamber, her heart hammered against her ribs with an anticipation she refused to acknowledge. She found Jake in the garden courtyard attached to his quarters, sitting cross-legged on the luminescent grass with his eyes closed. He seemed to be meditating, his face peaceful in a way that made something flutter in Zara's chest. "Is this how humans prepare for death?" she asked, stepping into the courtyard. Jake opened his eyes and smiled, that same crooked grin that had been haunting her dreams. "Actually, I was just listening. Your world has the most incredible sounds, like music made of starlight and crystal chimes." Zara found herself moving closer, drawn by the genuine wonder in his voice. "You are not afraid of dying?" "Everyone dies eventually," Jake replied, standing to face her. "The question is whether you really live first, and have you?" The question slipped out before Zara could stop it. "Lived, I mean." Jake's expression grew thoughtful. "I thought I had. I've traveled the galaxy, seen incredible things, met fascinating people. But sitting here these past few days, talking with you, I'm starting to think I've been missing something important." "What?" Zara whispered, though she wasn't sure she wanted to know the answer. "Connection. Real connection with another person." Jake stepped closer, close enough that Zara could see flecks of gold in his brown eyes. "When was the last time you felt truly connected to someone, Zara?" The use of her name without her title should have angered her. Instead, it sent warmth spiraling through her body. "I don't." "That's not—" She struggled for words, for the familiar cold composure that had always protected her. "When your parents died," Jake said gently, and Zara gasped as if he'd struck her. "That's when you built these walls, isn't it? When you decided love was too dangerous to risk?" "How did you?" Zara backed away, her breathing shallow. "I recognized the signs. I lost my parents too, in a transport accident when I was 12. For years, I kept everyone at arm's length, convinced that caring about people only led to pain." Zara's violet eyes filled with unshed tears. "Then you understand. You know why I can't? Why I won't." "I understand the fear," Jake said, following her retreat with slow, careful steps. "But I also learned something else. The pain of losing someone you love is nothing compared to the pain of never loving at all." "That's easy to say when you're not responsible for an entire world," Zara shot back, but her voice cracked. "Is that what this is about? You think caring about me would somehow diminish your ability to lead?" "Love makes you weak," Zara insisted, but the words sounded hollow even to her own ears. Jake stopped directly in front of her, so close she could feel the warmth radiating from his skin. "Love made you weak once, when you were a child who couldn't protect the people she cared about. But you're not that child anymore, Zara. You're a woman who commands fleets and negotiates with alien dignitaries. You're strong enough to love without losing yourself." Zara stared up at him, her carefully constructed defenses crumbling like ice under spring rain. "I don't know how," she whispered. "Then let me show you," Jake murmured, reaching up to cup her face with gentle hands. The kiss was soft at first, tentative, as if Jake were afraid she might flee. But when Zara melted into him, her hands fisting in his shirt, he deepened it, pouring all his longing and hope into the connection between them. Zara had never been kissed before. Royal protocol forbade such intimacies without formal bonding contracts, but her body seemed to know what to do, responding to Jake's touch with a hunger that surprised them both. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. Zara's violet eyes were wide with wonder and something that might have been fear. "I don't understand what's happening to me," she admitted, her voice barely audible. "You're falling in love," Jake said simply. "It's terrifying and wonderful and completely worth it." "My council will never approve," Zara said, but she didn't pull away from his embrace. "Then maybe what your council doesn't know won't hurt them," Jake suggested, his thumb tracing the line of her cheekbone. That night, for the first time in her adult life, Zara abandoned her royal duties. Instead of attending the evening council session, she remained in the garden with Jake, talking under the alien stars. She told him about her parents, about the day they died defending a mining colony from raiders, about how she'd sworn never to let emotion cloud her judgment again. Jake listened without trying to fix or change her, simply accepting her pain as part of who she was. In return, he shared his own stories, growing up in foster care after his parents' death, joining the diplomatic corps to find purpose, volunteering for the dangerous mission to Negezris, because he'd rather die trying to make a difference than live safely in obscurity. "You could have stayed on Earth," Zara said, tracing patterns on his chest as they lay together on the soft grass, her head pillowed on his shoulder. "Found someone to marry, had children, lived a normal life." "Normal is overrated," Jake replied, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. "Besides, if I'd stayed, I never would have met you." "And that would have been terrible?" Zara asked, though she was smiling. "That would have been the greatest tragedy of my life," Jake said, seriously, as the twin moons rose over Nexera. Zara allowed herself to believe, just for one night, that love might not be weakness after all. In Jake's arms, she felt not diminished, but amplified. It's not vulnerable, but invincible. She had no way of knowing that tomorrow would test that newfound strength, in ways she never could have imagined. Dawn brought with it the sound of marching feet and the cold reality of consequence. Zara woke in Jake's arms as her personal guard, Commander Thane, burst into the garden courtyard with a squadron of soldiers behind him. "Your Highness, Thane," said his weathered face grim with disapproval. "The council requires your immediate presence. The human is to be transferred to maximum security pending execution." Zara sat up quickly, her royal composure snapping into place, despite the intimate circumstances. "By whose authority?" "Emergency protocols, Your Highness. When a ruler is deemed ... compromised ... by foreign influence, the council has the right to act." Jake rose smoothly to his feet, placing himself slightly in front of Zara, despite being unarmed and outnumbered. "Compromised? Person I've ever met." "Silence, alien," Thane snapped. "You have corrupted our princess with your human weakness." "The only thing he's corrupted me with is perspective," Zara said icily, standing to face her commander. "Stand down, Thane." "In order, I'm afraid I cannot comply, Your Highness. The Council's authority supersedes yours in matters of planetary security." The words hit Zara like a physical blow. In all her years of rule, the Council had never dared to override her directly. That they would do so now, in front of Jake, felt like the ultimate betrayal. "Take him," Thane ordered his soldiers. "No," Zara said, her voice carrying the full weight of royal command. But the soldiers moved forward anyway. Jake didn't resist as energy shackles snapped around his wrists, but his eyes never left Zara's face. "Whatever happens, last night was worth it," he told her quietly. "This isn't over," Zara promised, her violet eyes blazing with fury and determination. "Your Highness," Thane said, as the soldiers led Jake away, "the council expects you in the throne room within the hour." Alone in her garden, Zara allowed herself exactly 60 seconds to feel the pain of separation. The fear for Jake's life, the rage at her council's betrayal. Then she straightened her shoulders, lifted her chin, and became every inch the princess her people needed her to be. The throne room of Nyxaris was a marvel of crystal architecture, its walls rising in spiraling curves toward a ceiling that opened to the sky. Normally, Zara found the space peaceful, but today it felt like a cage. The 5 members of her council stood in a semicircle before her throne, their faces set in expressions of righteous certainty. "You have overstepped your bounds," Zara said without preamble as she took her seat.
Yes.
"We have protected Nyxaris from contamination," replied Counselor Vex, the eldest of the group. "The human has clearly used some form of mind control to compromise your judgment. The only thing compromised here is your understanding of your place in this government," Zara shot back. "I am your ruler, not your puppet." "A ruler who abandons her duties to play with aliens," Counselor Nyx observed coldly. "A ruler who allows emotion to cloud her judgment just as her parents did." The mention of her parents sent ice through Zara's veins. "Do not dare to invoke my parents' memory to justify your power grab. Your parents died because they let their emotions override strategy," Vex continued relentlessly. "Yes. They prioritized saving a few hundred miners over the security of the Nyxaris. Will you make the same mistake for one human?" "My parents died because they were heroes," Zara said, rising from her throne. "They died protecting innocent lives, not sitting safely behind crystal walls while others suffered. And their heroism left Nyxaris without stable leadership for a decade," Nyx pointed out. "We will not allow history to repeat itself." "Then what do you propose?" Zara asked, though she dreaded the answer. "The human dies at sunset," Vex announced. "You will witness the execution to demonstrate that Nyxaris remains uncorrupted by alien influence. After a suitable period of mourning for your temporary lapse in judgment, you will accept a bonding contract with Prince Raven of the Southern Territories?" "No." The word came out flat and final. "This is not a request, Your Highness," Nyx said coldly. "Under the emergency protocols, you have 2 choices. Comply with the Council's directives, or abdicate in favor of a more suitable ruler." Zara stared at the 5 people she had trusted with her kingdom's welfare, seeing them clearly for the first time. They weren't concerned about corruption or contamination. They were terrified of losing their grip on power, of a princess who might start making decisions based on her own judgment rather than their council. "I need time to consider," she said finally. "You have until sunset," Vex replied. "The human dies either way, but your decision will determine whether you die beside him or rule beside Prince Raven." As Zara left the throne room, her mind raced through possibilities. She could rally the palace guard loyal to her personally, but that would mean civil war. She could try to negotiate Jake's release, but the council had made their position clear. Or she could do what her heart screamed at her to do, abandon everything for love. That evening, Zara stood on her balcony watching the sun set over Nyxaris. She realized that Jake had been right about one thing. Some choices were worth the consequences, no matter how terrible. She had been the dutiful princess for 15 years. Perhaps it was time to discover what kind of woman she could be if she chose love over fear, hope over safety, connection over isolation. The execution was scheduled for sunrise. That gave her exactly 12 hours to either save Jake's life or die trying. For the first time since her parents' death, Princess Zara of Nyxaris was ready to risk everything for someone else. The pre-dawn hours of Nyxaris were traditionally silent, but tonight the crystal corridors of the palace hummed with unusual activity. Zara moved through shadow passages known only to the royal family, her heart pounding with a mixture of terror and determination. She had spent the night making arrangements, calling in favors from loyalists, and preparing for what might be her final act as princess. Jake's maximum security cell was located in the deepest part of the palace, where the walls were reinforced with energy barriers and the guards were rotated every 2 hours. But Zara knew these halls better than anyone, and she had allies the council had never suspected. "Your Highness," whispered Captain Nova, one of Zara's personal guards who had served her family since before her birth. "The way is clear, but we have only minutes before the next rotation." Zara nodded, her fingers trembling as she pressed her palm to the cell's bioscanner. The door dissolved silently, revealing Jake sitting cross-legged on the floor, apparently meditating again. He looked up as she entered, his face lighting up with a smile that made her heart skip. "I was wondering if you'd come," he said, rising. "To embrace her? Did you doubt me?" Zara asked, allowing herself a moment to lose herself in his warmth. "Never. Though I have to admit, breaking into a maximum security prison wasn't exactly what I expected from our second date." Despite everything, Zara found herself laughing. "Ah, Jake Morrison, only you would make jokes while facing execution. It's either laugh or cry, and crying would ruin my ruggedly handsome image," Jake replied, but his expression grew serious as he studied her face. "What's the plan, princess?" "We run," Zara said simply. "Nova has a ship waiting in the old mining tunnels beneath the palace. We can reach the neutral zone before the council realizes you're gone." Jake was quiet for a way. Long moment, and then what? "You give up your throne, your people, your entire life for a human you've known for less than a week?" "Yes," Zara replied without hesitation. "I can't let you do that." Zara blinked, taken aback. "What?" "Zara, you're an amazing leader. Your people need you, even if your council doesn't recognize it. I won't be responsible for depriving Nikaris of the best ruler they've ever had." "That's not your choice to make," Zara said fiercely. "It's mine." "Then let me give you another option," Jake said, reaching into his pocket and pulling out something that made Zara gasp. It was a ring, but unlike any she had ever seen. The band appeared to be made from metal salvaged from his crashed ship, but embedded within it was a starbloom crystal that pulsed with soft, steady light. Somehow, impossibly, he had created something that was both human and Nexarian, a perfect fusion of their two worlds. "Jake, what are you, Princess Zara of House Vextar?" Jake said, dropping to one knee in the traditional human gesture of proposal. "Will you marry me?" "You're proposing?" Zara stared at him in shock. "Now here, we're in a prison cell." "I know it's not exactly romantic," Jake admitted, "but I've been thinking about what you said yesterday, about your council never approving of us. What if we didn't give them a choice? I don't understand." Jake's eyes sparkled with the same determined gleam that had first attracted her. "According to the diplomatic files I studied before coming here, Nexarian law recognizes bonding contracts between royalty and foreign dignitaries as matters of interplanetary policy, which supersede domestic politics. If you marry me, your council can't execute me without risking a diplomatic incident with Earth." Zara stared at him, her mind racing. That's actually brilliant. "But Jake, marriage isn't just a political maneuver. It's a promise," Jake said seriously. "A promise to stand by each other no matter what comes. A promise to build something together that's stronger than what either of us could create alone. A promise to love each other through fear and doubt, and whatever challenges we face." Tears spilled down Zara's cheeks as she looked at this incredible human, who had crash-landed in her life and turned everything upside down. "You barely know me. What if I'm not who you think I am? Then we'll figure it out together," Jake said simply. "Zara, I love you. Not the princess. Not the ruler. Not the perfect image you show the world. I love the woman who listened to stories about Earth with wonder in her eyes. I love the woman who kissed me in a garden under alien stars. I love the woman brave enough to risk everything for someone she cares about. I love you too," Zara whispered, the words feeling both foreign and absolutely right. "Yes, Jake Morrison of Earth, I will marry you." As Jake slipped the ring onto her finger, alarms began blaring throughout the palace. Their time was up.
"Your
Highness," Captain Nova called urgently from the doorway. "The council has discovered the escape plan. They're mobilizing the full guard." "Then we do this the hard way," Zara said, her voice carrying all the authority of her birthright. "Nova, summon every guard loyal to the crown. It's time to remind the council who really rules Neceres." The next few hours would become legend on Neceres. Princess Zara and her human consort fought their way through crystal corridors as loyalist guards battled council forces in a conflict that split the palace in two. When dawn broke over the capital, it illuminated a scene that would change the course of Nexarian history forever. Standing before the assembled people of Nexaris, Princess Zara, announced her marriage to Jake Morrison and declared a new age of openness to the galaxy. The Council, faced with the choice between accepting the new reality or civil war, grudgingly acknowledged the legitimacy of the bonding contract. Love, Zara told her people that day, her hand clasped firmly in Jake's, is not weakness. Love is the courage to build bridges across the darkness between worlds, to find strength in unity, and to believe that together we can face whatever the universe brings. As the crowd cheered and star blooms burst into brilliant light throughout, the capital Zara realized that Jake had been right about one thing. Sometimes strangers did make the best allies. And sometimes, if you were very lucky, they became so much more. The alien princess who had laughed at love, in the end, had the last laugh after all.